Albert Camus was a man who lived in the shadows of war, oppression, and existential doubt, yet somehow managed to articulate a philosophy that continues to resonate with millions who feel the weight of life's unanswered questions. His ideas are not cloaked in overly technical jargon, nor do they demand years of study in order to be understood. Instead, his philosophy is raw, human, and deeply personal. He spoke to the very heart of what it means to be alive in a world that seems indifferent to our hopes, our dreams, and our search for meaning. To understand Camus, we must begin not with abstract theories, but with a lived experience that every human being shares, the confrontation with absurdity. Camus defined the absurd as the clash between our longing for clarity, purpose, and order, and the silence of the universe that refuses to give us definitive answers. Human beings are meaning-seeking creatures. We want to know why we are here, what purpose our lives serve, and what it all amounts to in the end. Yet when we look to the stars, when we search the scriptures, or when we seek the consolations of philosophy, the universe offers no reply. It is not that life is meaningless in a simple sense, but that life resists the neat explanations we crave. The absurd is not just the meaningless, it is the contradiction between our desperate desire for meaning and the world's indifference to that desire. Camus illustrated this with one of the most famous metaphors in philosophy, the myth of Sisyphus. In Greek legend, Sisyphus was condemned by the gods to roll a massive boulder up a mountain, only for it to roll back down again, forcing him to repeat the task for all eternity. To most, this would seem the cruelest and most hopeless punishment imaginable. Yet Camus reinterprets the myth, suggesting that in Sisyphus's eternal struggle lies a mirror of the human condition. We labor, we strive, we love, we create, and in the end, the boulder rolls back down. Death waits for all of us, and the universe offers no ultimate justification for our struggles. But Camus' response is radical. He does not tell us to despair, nor does he urge us to invent a false hope. Instead, he says we must imagine Sisyphus happy. Happiness, meaning, and dignity are not given to us by the world, they are created by us in the act of living, in the act of embracing life fully even when it resists explanation. Camus' philosophy stands as a critique of two extremes. On one side, he rejected nihilism, the belief that life is meaningless and nothing matters. To Camus, nihilism is a surrender, a refusal to live. On the other side, he rejected what he called philosophical suicide, the leap into religious or ideological systems that promise ready-made answers. While he respected the comfort religion might offer, he believed it was dishonest to claim certainty where none exists. Camus refused to leap into the arms of dogma. For him, the only honest way to live is to confront the absurd directly and yet keep on living, creating, and loving. This tension, this willingness to live without absolute answers, is the essence of his philosophy. Camus was not just a thinker, he was a man of action. Born in Algeria in 1913, he grew up in poverty, the son of a widowed mother who worked as a cleaning lady. His humble beginnings gave him a sensitivity to the struggles of ordinary people. Unlike many philosophers who lived in ivory towers, Camus was deeply engaged in the social and political crises of his time. During World War II, he joined the French resistance, writing and editing for underground newspapers that defied Nazi occupation. For him, philosophy was not an escape from the world but a way of living in it more courageously. He once wrote that the only serious philosophical question is whether life is worth living. And his answer was a resounding yes, not because life has a hidden purpose, but because its very lack of ultimate purpose gives us the freedom to create meaning for ourselves. In his novels and essays, Camus gave life to his philosophy in ways that pure theory never could. In The Stranger, he depicted Musault, a man indifferent to social conventions, who confronts the absurd in the face of death. In The Plague, he told the story of a city under quarantine, where human beings must find solidarity and compassion in the face of a meaningless epidemic. In The Rebel, he explored the tension between human freedom and the oppressive systems of politics and ideology. Through all these works, Camus sought not to provide final answers, but to awaken us to the possibility of living authentically in the face of absurdity. Camus' insistence on living without appeal is not a cold or pessimistic doctrine. On the contrary, it is a philosophy of life, of joy, of defiance. To live without illusions is to live more deeply. It is to notice the beauty of a sunrise, the laughter of a friend, the taste of wine, or the act of creating art. It is to embrace love not as a divine command, but as a human choice. For Camus, the absurd does not destroy meaning, it liberates us from false meanings, allowing us to craft our own. This is why he could say that one must imagine Sisyphus happy. In the very act of pushing the boulder, in the act of living without final justification, we find a freedom that no god or fate can take from us. Camus also reminds us that our confrontation with the absurd is not an individual struggle alone. While life may be without cosmic purpose, we are not without each other. In The Plague, the Dr. Rias fights not because he expects victory over death, but because he refuses to abandon his fellow human beings to suffering. Solidarity, compassion, and resistance to injustice become acts of meaning in a meaningless world. We may not be able to conquer death, but we can choose how we face it, and we can choose to lessen the suffering of others along the way. This humanism, grounded not in divine command but in human freedom, makes Camus one of the most morally compelling philosophers of the modern age. When Camus won the Nobel Prize for Literature in 1957, he was only 44 years old. In his acceptance speech, he reflected on the role of the writer as someone who bears witness to injustice, gives voice to the voiceless, and helps humanity find dignity in dark times. Tragically, only a few years later, in 1960, Camus' life was cut short by a car accident. He was only 46. Yet despite his short life, his words continue to live, not because they offer ultimate answers, but because they refuse to. His philosophy endures precisely because it resonates with anyone who has ever asked, "What is the point of all this?" Camus would answer, "The point is what you make of it." Do not wait for the universe to hand you meaning on a silver platter. Do not collapse into despair, and do not cling to false hopes. Instead, look the absurd in the face and live. Create. Love. Resist injustice. Laugh at the boulder as it rolls back down the hill and take joy in pushing it up again. Life is not a puzzle to be solved, but a song to be sung, a canvas to be painted, a story to be lived. In our world today, Camus' voice is more relevant than ever. Surrounded by uncertainty, by political chaos, by climate change, by the rapid pace of technology, and by personal struggles of loneliness and anxiety, we too are confronted with the absurd. We want clarity, but we often find noise. We want order, but we often find chaos. In such times, Camus offers not despair but courage. He does not tell us to look away or numb ourselves. He tells us to live, to embrace the absurd, and to find beauty in the fleeting moments of existence. Perhaps that is why his words still resonate so powerfully. Camus reminds us that freedom lies not in escaping the absurd but in facing it. He reminds us that joy is not given but created, that solidarity is not commanded but chosen, and that dignity is not found in the heavens but here on earth, in the lives we build together. The absurd is not an enemy to be defeated, but a reality to be acknowledged. And in that acknowledgement, life begins to reveal its fragile, fleeting, and yet profound beauty. Albert Camus gave us no ultimate map, but he gave us a compass. He did not hand us answers, but he showed us how to live the questions. And in that, he has become not just a philosopher of absurdity, but a philosopher of life itself. His message is both simple and difficult. The world has no inherent meaning, but you must live as if your life has meaning anyway. It is up to you to create it, to love, to work, to fight, to laugh, to endure. And perhaps, in doing so, you will find a joy deeper than certainty, a joy that arises not in spite of the absurd, but because of it. Albert Camus' voice will continue to echo as long as human beings search for meaning in an indifferent universe. His challenge to us is clear: do not surrender to despair, and do not cling to illusions. Instead, embrace the absurd, and live fully. In the end, that is not just philosophy, it is a way of being alive.